Hey everyone. What we're going to do today is a simple bucktail crawfish pattern. It's a really good one I like to use and have a lot of success with. And it's that time of year now. We're getting into the time where the cold water period is going to come up shortly. Um, so let's get started with this one. In the vise, we have one of my favorite heads for this pattern. It's a 3/32 ounce walleye head, and it's got a size 1 owner 5313 hook in it. Very sharp and very strong to use with higher strength line. 8-10 pound test, this won't bend out, so when it's snagged it's gone, but this really catches fish. So let's get started here with some black 210 denier flat wax nylon thread. We'll get our little base started there and trim off the excess. Now normally I'd stay on a collar for a jig of this type, but since I'm going to tie a craw pattern, I'm going to run my thread down, and I only want to run it down just a little bit beyond the point of the hook, not quite to the barb. Now the first thing I'm going to do is a couple little strands of silicone. I take 2 little black strands here. The color of this jig is a dark gray, almost a smoke gray with holographic glitter, but you can use black, brown, whatever color you really like for your craws. This one here I'm making for murky water, so I have the holographic glitter in it. And tie your, these are just going to be the feelers. You can even omit these if you'd like. I think it adds to the action, so. But I've had them snag where I broke these off and it still caught fish. Okay, now that I got my feelers attached, now comes the neat part. We're going to take some chenille, and this is New Age chenille. It has little bits of flash in it. This is called Brim, and it's black with blue and silver flash in it. It's going to give you a little flash underneath everything. You're not really going to see it, but I think it helps. And you're going to tie it in. You're going to make a few wraps with it. I don't like to make a real big ball, just a small one. And this is going to be for the hackle claws that we're going to use for our craw. Just a couple wraps to tie that in there and trim it off. Now we're going to put our claws in. And for the claws, we're just going to use orange hackle tips. I like to make them, I like this jig to be about 2.5 inches. Even though this is small, I like the claws to extend a little bit. So this, hackle is kind of fun to work with sometimes, especially when you want to tie it in like this, because it has a tendency to want to go its own way. So see what I mean, how they went up like that? I actually want them the other way, but you just want to get them tied in so that way you can push them to where you want. And get some wraps on them. This one here is gonna be belligerent, I guess. There we go. Now we got those tied in. Here comes the meat and potatoes of this jig pattern. I'm going to use black bucktail. Now I want the bucktail to go half the length of the claws. So I'll measure that and trim it accordingly. A little more. Couple securing wraps, and I'm going to feather this all out. You don't want a real heavy bucktail. You want this to be sort of on the sparser side because of the way it's going to work in the water. It's actually going to have a fair amount of action for a bucktail. Now we got that part in. I'm going to measure what I've tied in and then trim off the next piece of bucktail. I took the liberty of cutting some up before the video so I wouldn't waste time. A couple securing wraps. The one thing with bucktail, when you tie it in and you have that base layer of thread, when you push it around, it tends to follow the thread, so it isn't hard to get it to go all the way around the jig. It looks pretty good. I could use a little more in the front. Let's cut a little piece off. Definitely don't need much. Cut a little piece off here and you always cut your bucktail. Cut it from the hide. I've seen a lot of bucktails that were in complete shambles because guys took off just what they needed and then they ended up wasting half of it because there wasn't too much good left on it, even though there was a lot of material left on it. So even if you only need a half an inch or so of it, take it from whatever area is closest to the size you need and cut it right down at the hide. That way you use it. And you don't want to ever just trim the tips off. That's where your action is, in the tips of this bucktail. Measure it off of what I have in. Trim it. Add it to my jig right there. Sorry. I tend to think out loud sometimes. Okay. Now, basically make sure everything is where you want it to be. And we're going to tie it down now. This is where you get to clean it up, where you have some bucktail strands hanging out the neck. Of course, you don't have to have it that way. It'll catch fish. I just like it to look a little more professional. Especially if I'm making these for somebody, if I'm making them for family or friends. I want them to look at it and see that it was done real nice. Now we got that straightened out. Everything looks pretty good. We're going to whip finish it. And every time I whip finish and I get done, I always pull it down and cinch 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pull, cinch, trim it off, and we'll get our head cement. You know what, before I put the head cement on, I'm going to take this out and show you all what it looks like so you could see. Pull our loose ones out. There you have it. That's just a simple little bucktail craw on that wall I had. Very easy to tie. I know I made it look more harder than what it is, but this is a real killer pattern. Works good. You can use it with any color you'd like. Give it a try and let me know how you do. Thanks for watching.